Hi, everybody. Welcome back to Spooky Things. It's Debbie, and it's Tuesday it's around 7 o'clock at night. Um, Tonight we have an interesting guest. We have Miss Joline Fine, and she's an author. And she is going to be a guest at the Deep South Para Comic Con that is coming up on September the 14th and 15th. We're hoping you guys can show up there because we got a lot of cool things going on. Um, so we're going to talk to Jolene tonight about some of her books. Hi, Jolene. How are you?
Hi, thanks for having me.
No, thank you for being here. We certainly do appreciate you coming. We've been looking forward to it. So you've got a book out called. It's one of you've got several out. It's called Kalani.
So, yes, Kalani Shadows of Destiny and Kalani Mist of Despair. They basically all start with Kalani. So,
Oh, okay. So it's a series.
it is a series. It is a series. And the
Okay.
third one comes out in November, which is Kalani Freed
Okay.
from Darkness.
Give us a brief, we don't want to give too much away because we want them to read these books, but
You're
give us
fine.
a brief overlook on what they're about.
Okay, so think YA dystopian afterlife with where the teens have spiritual powers to fight shape-shifting demons. That's essentially the storyline.
Well, that sounds interesting.
So
I
I
know a lot
really
of people would be
liked
interested in that.
demons when I don't know if you've had a lot of experience with them, but when I was in probably high school, I got attacked by demons a lot. So I started to think about them and w- what, like, why I was being attacked and how to get rid of them. And there are, many ways, you can Google it. There's a lot of ways to get rid of them. There's also, if you're religious, there's spiritual ways. And so my characters use their spiritual powers to, lasso them. And so they basically have magical weapons, but they have to have faith in order to use those weapons.
Hmm. No,
So,
which is actually true.
right? Yes. So another one of those things that I kind of talk about in the, or not like really talk about, but I kind of hint at or I like discussing is is magic faith or is faith magic? You know, it's a little bit of both. Need, in my personal opinion, you need faith to perform magic.
I Yeah, that is true. You have to have the intention.
Right.
And in order to have the attention, you have to have, that strong conviction, that strong faith that what you're doing is going to do the trick,
Right.
so to speak.
That totally makes sense.
So it is true. Yeah, it is true. Um, how long have you been writing?
I started writing in high school. I'm 45. I wrote a comedy and probably about 15 years ago. And then I just took a break. I own a company and I've been able to get back to writing within like the last year so that I've been able to publish the books that I've been kind of sitting on for a while.
How many do you have out now?
Three total. So I have the comedy Dog Breath, which is a romantic comedy. It's very quirky. It's based in Tallahassee and Havana. It's a Southern comedy. It's basically about a guy who smells dog breath for a living, and he falls in love with this girl, and together they try to help save this dog food company. The reason that I wrote that was because I wanted something clean. And the this series came about because I'd always kind of struggled with traditional views of the afterlife. So I kind of created my own just because I can, you know. So I
Right?
combined a
Right?
lot of beliefs. I combined Catholic beliefs and, some American Indian beliefs, some LDS Mormon beliefs, and, some Protestant, just like Hindu, just kind of just like different aspects of like afterlife and things, and put them kind of all together in the way that I wanted it to be. And then so you kind of see like the characters try to figure out their worlds, and their world, Kalani, is actually a hologram. So it is a fantasy with sci-fi elements. It's definitely not one of those hardcore like Star Trek, where you're like, oh my goodness, they're always on a spaceship and whatever. You do see spaceships and stuff, but it's not like the essential part of it. Um, the essential, the the main part of the story is that the characters are trying to figure out what their destiny is, and trying to, once they do find out their destiny, there's this place called the Mist of Darkness, where people who are possessed by evil spirits or demons are frozen basically in time. They cannot progress. They are in a hell, if I can say that word on here, of their own making, like
Mhm.
in their mind. And my characters find out that this place exists, and they do not want to do it. So basically, I've created a dystopian afterlife where my heroes want to go in and save people from despair. And that just again came back to that I was attacked a lot by demons. I've suffered my entire life from despair, and I, in order to kind of deal with things, I created an action adventure. So,
Well, that's really interesting. Um,
yes. So the
Teresa.
books, yes. So let's see. So Plani Shadows of Destiny got number one for like a day in ebooks for inspirational fiction, and which happened, I think, 2 months after it was released, which is pretty unusual. But I
Wow.
didn't know how to market a book, so it took me a while to figure out that. And then I did better with this one. So when this one released, I actually had this one at number one for 4 days on Amazon, also in inspirational fiction, and it was number three in Christian fiction fantasy. It was number one in teen. I have like the little things. It was number two in futuristic. Um, I ranked number like one to three in about five or six categories within the first week. And then I did a con. And oh my gosh, I mean, I sold books in person, but because I wasn't like online and on Facebook and on TikTok, like posting about my books, like I sold nothing online, and I lost my rating like that. It was very sad. I was like, why am I here? Dang it. But again, as an indie author or an independent author, for 4 days on Amazon is really good. I don't know that I've ever heard of anyone else doing that has only like one or two books out. So pretty good.
Wow. That's fabulous. I I'd say so. Yeah. Not a lot of people can say that. You can.
Yeah, I heard
Um,
some statistics
so
on. Oh, go ahead.
no, 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 go ahead.
Oh, I heard some statistics on traditional publishing, which is it's actually kind of sad, just in general, that only 10% of traditionally published books will ever sell more than 100 copies. And I've sold over 500 copies.
Mm,
Um, so I've done better than 10% of traditional published books. So,
well, yeah. Um, Kids are really into books these days, so I think you're going to do really well.
yeah.
I really do.
So it is a young adult fantasy. I have found that I have a lot of mothers that read the books. It is very popular now for people to read YA if they enjoy clean books, because they're hard at adult books are hard to find clean, that don't have spice or
Yeah,
um, curse words or excessive gore in them. So a lot of conservative mothers or and fathers actually, um, so most of my sales have been actually adults. I would like to see more teens actually read it and get excited about it, but um, currently, I think the statistics are something like, I can't remember exactly, but 60% of my readers are adult men. And I'm not sure why that is. It could be because my character,
interesting.
Zach here, he's pretty cool. He is very defiant. And so it's a dual point of view where it has, it rotates from Zach to Desiree. And I don't know if they're dads that are just looking for books or they're always just fantasy readers. But that has just been, the people that have taken an interest. Plus, a lot of men love Star Trek and Star Wars. And I'm not saying that my books are like that. It's
That's
my books
true.
are more like if you meshed The Giver with um Star Trek and and Stargate, that would be very more similar to it. It's definitely like a YA clean, because Star Trek originally, at least in the books, was very clean, and it wasn't very technical sci-fi. So it was a lot more fantasy. The ones that I've read, anyway.
Hmm. No, I agree with that. I know that somewhat here recently, I read a book that was getting so technical, I began to lose interest because, to me, it was so technical, it distracted away from the actual story. And I was like, okay, well, you know, I'm not into the creation of this particular thing. So to have it to go into detail like it did, it was like, let me just get past this. And then I was interested in it all over again because it got into the story again.
Right.
So, no, I know exactly what you're talking about. I do.
Yeah,
You
that's
know,
definitely like a
sometimes so
niche.
much.
I think that's one of the
It
things
is.
that I've tried to kind of stay away from, not like on purpose in my writing, just because naturally I'm not going to write that. But as far as advertising, because when people think sci fi, they think technical sci fi. And that is not what you should be imagining at all. You should be imagining a fantasy world, like a fantasy afterlife with some cool sci-fi elements. And by what I mean by cool sci-fi elements are, there's a mirror where you look in it and it changes your clothing. There's in order to go
Hmm.
from one side of the planet to another, you get it in a magical little elevator and it shoots you like a rainbow to the other side. um of course, there's my favorite ones are the ones that they take into despair. There's a coin that Zach uses, and he goes into the coin in order to what I have coined as a soul gaze. So he sends his spirit to commune with someone else's spirit. And I called that a soul gaze. Our
Mhm.
female, her superpowers are basically like an exorcist. I don't call it that. I call her the Ornith because she expels evil spirit. I don't know why I've never particularly liked that word, but it sounds so like horror. but but
Yeah.
essentially that's basically what she does. She expels evil spirits, but she uses her necklace and it which has like, oh, that is another technology that they have. Also, all of their technology is faith based, so they can't use anything in their worlds without faith, which would make sense if you are having a symbolic afterlife where the ruler is literally God. He was not going to let you do anything without faith, you know. So
Hmm. Well, sounds fascinating. It really, truly does. Um, well, what's neat about it is that you created a whole world here.
actually, yes,
And
I created a world, but I actually created an entire universe. So if you see, I know, why stop at a world? Why not make a whole universe? I have so
exactly.
in the book, there's so this is one of the maps you can see. So this is the immortal world, and it references the mortal world. So there are two distinct planets that come into play in the book, and some of the other planets are referenced as well. So I have created a completely universe outside of ours, anything that you could possibly understand, but it still correlates and makes sense. And it's pretty easy to read because it correlates. I mean, it doesn't correlate with our history. It will remind you of the relationship between our earth and heaven or the
Mhm.
afterlife, because Kalani actually means the heavens in Hawaiian, which is why I picked Kalani.
Well, that's interesting. How long did it take you to write these books?
I started a really long time ago. I started I probably started about 15 years ago, but I put it on pause. I tried to get it traditionally published. I really loved the story. Um, I self-published Dog Breath because it was a cute story. I didn't think it was going to win any awards, but it's cute and it's funny and it's a rather good story. But because Kalani was so intense, I put it off. I put it off because I really wanted to have it traditionally published, but I never found anyone that was interested in it. In fact, the longer I waited, the more the industry has um, turned to alternative, less conservative literature. Even though that's not necessarily what everyone wants, that is what they want to put out. So,
Yeah.
so that's, I mean, I felt like tradition, if I wasn't going to get published, and you get started to be, I'm 45, and so last year I was like, wow, I'm getting old. If I don't publish now, no one's going to read this book before I die, and I know I still got another 40 years, but
Oh,
you do
easily.
start to feel that sort of way that I've held on to the book for so long, and I was also having
Yeah.
that whole itch where um it wasn't going to get any better than it was. I had rewritten it and rewritten it and improved it. um I wish I had the letter, but the original first draft, which was over 100 drafts ago of this book, Shadows of Destiny. 15 years ago, I made it to the top 500 of this YA contest. But essentially, they basically said the same thing. Very few of them understood that it was a metaphor, and most of them didn't understand, like, the things that were being referenced, because increasingly our world has, less and less religious, so I think
Yes.
only a few of the judges realized that there were a lot of, like it was literally being symbolic of the afterlife. Which seems very obvious to me, but they had a 10,000 entries, so I don't know how
Ooh.
I don't know how thoroughly they were reading all of their entries. But so, but anyway, so that was something.
Well, the top 500 out of 10,000 entries.
I
That's
know. It
pretty
was my first
impressive.
draft. Well, at that time, I didn't think it was very good. I was like, wow, that sucks. That's like horrible. I didn't make it very far. But now looking back on
No.
it, that was pretty good. But, it is all
Yeah.
perspective. So, but yeah, so I, you know, I feel like I would have done a lot better just in general in the industry if I had probably thought of and published maybe 5 years earlier. I probably could have still made it in the industry. But the very year that I published my comedy, um, everything went online. The Books a Million went under. Um, and I know they still have Books a Million, but most of them went bankrupt, and they closed down a lot of bookstores. And that's also when
Yeah.
they turned into more gift stores than they are bookstores. Like, if you go in there, I feel like there's more like games and puzzles and like gift items now than there are books. So,
Yeah. Yeah.
but
Yeah. I've been into one recently, and I agree with you. There's a whole lot of just what I would just think would be secondary purchases
mhm.
that are basically front line now. It's like the books
Yeah.
are like, oh, but and we have books too. We
I
have
think
all
it's like
this,
the
and
coffee.
there's some books back
They're
there
only
too.
here for the coffee, but if you're done with your coffee, maybe you can look at a book and maybe pick a book up too.
Exactly.
After you get your
Oh
muffin.
my God. No, no, I know exactly what you're saying. But
But
it's interesting. It seems to me that this is just like seems to me. It seems like the book series. Now, of course, Stephen King had his there was the Gunslinger series out with Stephen King that came
mhm.
out before, of course, the Twilight series. And it seems like it was on like a bit of a roll at that time. And you had The Hobbit, you had the Lord of the Rings series, but then you also had the Twilight series. So anyway, it's all these series were coming out like one right after another, and it seemed like it was really piquing people's interest. And I know I was totally into Anne Rice, and I
Mhm.
followed everything that she wrote. And to me, that was almost like a series because it was a continuation. It was like almost the same story. She had a couple of things going on, but it was almost like a continuation of that same premise that she carried through with. Um, but it seemed like it was catching on. It seemed like more people were turning to reading than really even watching TV. And I noticed a lot of attention was coming onto the books. And then, of course, those series became part of movie and television. So,
And
but,
and this is just my personal
but
opinion, and I'm probably, biased because I do like clean fiction and I do write it. But if you look at all of those books that became popular, Harry Potter, The Hunger Games, Divergent, all of those fantasy series were clean books. When they started pushing
It's true.
unclean books with, you know, alternative things in them, um, it became less family oriented. Someone couldn't read those. Like, even though a parent might enjoy it, they could no longer enjoy it with their child. So
Hmm.
that is my thoughts. But, it also could be just that we have become very, YouTube. We're getting everybody's getting their news from YouTube and, podcasts and stuff. So,
Yeah.
you know, maybe
It,
we're
it,
also getting
it's
into it. I
true.
do
It is
think that there
true.
is still a large amount of readers out there. We just have to find them. And there's also, books and for everyone, you know. So, which is also, I think it's a good thing that, that we are able to do in independent publishing, because 70% of sales come from independent, like from Amazon anyway. They're not coming from the bookstore. Pretty much the only, trouble or the difference that we would have is that we don't have, like, don't have the money to spend $50,000 to advertise to make you come and buy my book at Amazon, kind of thing, opposed
Right.
to,
Right.
a big publishing company that can do that. That's, to me, the difference. And yes, it is nice to go into a bookstore and be able to find like a physical book, because, especially like if you're taking your kids shopping. I know my dad loves to take my children to the bookstore, and it doesn't matter, they are going to find a book. Like it's not him, like they're like, oh, it's a free book, we're gonna go, we're gonna find a book, one of these books we're gonna like, we're gonna take it home. So it's always been a special time.
Were you raised reading books? Did you both of your parents read?
I don't recall them ever reading books, actually. I'm not saying that they didn't read. I do remember learning how to read, but it was the Bible. I learned at 5 years old. We had scripture study, mandatory scripture study before school, where we spent basically an hour learning how to read before school. So that's how I learned how to read. I don't know that other people would have enjoyed that. I remember my parents reading scriptures. I don't know that any of them had, I never saw them probably with a fiction book ever in my entire life. I did, however, personally love to write. And I was in the foster care system. So my foster parents, the house that I ended up in, they gave me their old typewriter to play with because they didn't want to give me, a computer. Plus, at that time, I'm not sure computers were out. Like, because I was only like 9. So I'm not sure that computers actually were a thing until like I
Mm.
was like 10 or 11 or something like that. Um, so they gave me this typewriter, and I loved making stories. I would get up in the middle of the night and just type, 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 type my little stories. Um, I made little songs and stuff. I always have wanted to be a writer. Even when I was like wanted to be an English teacher, I also wanted to be a writer. I started out with children's books in high school. I wrote a children's book as a class. So you were able to,
Oh,
the school that I went to, you could take like study hall, or you could create your own class. And so as a senior, I was like, I want to create my own class, because I had never actually seen anyone do it. I think I might have been the only one that actually did it at the school, but it was offered. So I found an English teacher and I said, um, I gave him my plan. I was like, this is my plan. My plan is to read 50 children's books, which actually is not that hard because children's books only take like 10 minutes to read, if that, maybe like two. So I was like basically going to be done with like most of the class at, in a week. Like that was like the whole first part. I'm going to read 50 books. I had like totally had that done in the first week. And then I was going to analyze. Here's the second part of my plan. I was going to analyze these books to determine what made them good children's books, which I did. Again, it only took me a week to do this. um, then I spent the rest of the semester creating a children's book and self-illustrating it. I was a horrible artist, but I did use a lot of clip art and whatnot, and I made this little elephant that I'm sure you could Google it. It's probably a rather poor book, but and then I made it basically like a little elephant that likes to jump rope, and he has a hard time, or he or she, I can't even remember which one it was, had a hard time remembering things. So they tied a little, you know, thing like a little ribbon around their neck or finger, and they were able to remember things. Um, what that had to basically, it was a lot of repetition because that's what I found was very popular in all these children's books. And then I put it all together and I went to Kinko's because that was the place that, you made books back then, and I put it
Hmm.
together and I gave it to my teacher's son as a present because she had a 1 year old little toddler, and I thought I was amazing. Just saying. But that was my high school project that I completely made up my own class and they just let me do it. So yay.
Wow. Yay.
All right.
I think that's pretty creative. I
Yeah.
really do. That's pretty creative.
I probably would have stayed in children's books had I been like an actual artist. I found that for children's books in general, they wanted an author artist, like an actual artist combination, preferably an artist that is a decent writer. And I feel like that's still the same in the industry now. I do worry about the children's book industry because of all AI makes it way too easy to, like, are these children's books that are coming out even created by people anymore? I don't know. So,
Yeah. Yeah. Um, that's something to really think about. I mean, who or what is creating these books? And I personally like the books that's got not the, I mean, the little very simplistic drawings on them, the creative drawings that someone can do in a matter of maybe 5 or 10 minutes. I love them. I really
mhm.
do. I think they're great. And some of those children books that are out there, the drawings in them are so cute. They're just so cute.
They are so
And
adorable.
I could, aren't they? It's just that time of innocence kind of a thing. It's like that's really cool. Now, I always read to my kids, and I read to my grandkids.
Mhm.
But to me, it was always a real important time to sit there snuggled up with them, reading them a book, and my kids still remember that today too. And so I think I still have some of their old books here that my grandkids are actually using.
Mhm.
But I've always been an avid reader. My whole life I've read. I remember my father was an avid reader. My mom not so much. But now my daughter-in-law, Mia, she is really an avid reader. And she reads a lot of the stuff that in the genre that you write in. So I've got to ask her if she's ever read that. but heavens knows she probably has. I think she's read about everything that's out there. She can read a. I always tell her you can read War and Peace in a weekend. She's just. But what's amazing about her? Oh yeah, she'll read it and then she'll tell you, oh yeah, that happened on, and this chapter on this page,
Oh my goodness.
somewhere in the middle in there.
She must have like a photographic memory
I
or
can
something.
barely. Yes, I
I
couldn't watch Game of
yeah.
Thrones without her right there.
Oh yeah, she was telling you.
Yeah, she told me everything that was going on. In the middle of it, I'd be like, "Who is that? And what are they doing? And where did he come from?" And she come up with the whole history. I'm like, "Gotcha. Okay, play it again."
Oh.
I'm there. I'm with it.
Does she tell
But I
you
loved
like
it. But I had to be watching
that didn't happen in the book or that was different?
all the time.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah. Luckily, she'd wait for after it was over, and she'd go, "That's not the way it was in the book." So, well, how did it go in the book?
Mm.
And then she talked me, and the Game of Thrones book is not an easy read at all.
It's not.
It's really not an easy read.
I
No.
enjoyed the I enjoyed the series, so I thought I would enjoy the book, but it's not. It's more like Tolkien. It's very complicated.
Yes.
It's multiple points of view, but they go into it. I read probably the first couple of chapters and I was like, who are these characters? Like none of these characters were in the show that I just watched. Who are these people?
Yeah. Yeah.
So I just ditched
They
it.
they did. They
So,
passed over a lot of people.
yeah. It was like, let
So,
me name
but
50 people
I
that
am.
are not going to actually be relevant in the book. I mean, in the series right now. So
It's true.
it is true.
I
Yeah. So on Book Talk, they have a couple of funny things that they'll always do. One of them is when they're reading fantasy author or fantasy names, it'll be like Rabadu, and it'll be like these really weird names, and then all of a sudden it'll be Fred. It's like so every fantasy book always has these crazy, crazy like names from other countries. And then there's this one guy who always is like some American name that does not fit in. Like, and you're like, that guy's gonna die. He just
he's a goner.
he's a goner for sure. I don't know if it was like Star Trek or something, but originally I feel like they had was it the red shirts or the yellow shirts? One of the shirts, you knew those people when they went on a planet, they were gonna die. That was just, it was just like code for they were not gonna make it. They're wearing the red shirts.
Yeah, they were collateral damage.
Yeah. Oh.
It's true. Oh my god, that is just so true. Have you done a lot of promoting with your books?
I've been on a couple of podcasts. I don't really know what to do. To be honest, like I've tried different marketing things. I've gone on Facebook, I'm on TikTok like all the time. I don't know that TikTok sells books, to be honest with you. I have a newsletter and I do a lot of newsletter swaps. I feel like that works for me. Um,
Okay.
and I'm starting to get in the cons. I did a Infinity Con in Tallahassee a couple of weeks ago, and I enjoyed that because I enjoyed seeing the people, and I dressed up. I dressed up in this little sci-fi outfit, and I have a little demon costume that I'm gonna wear for the paranormal con, and I've made a lot of videos
The
with it
Deep
too.
South Fair Comic Con?
The what?
The Deep South
Yes,
Fair
the Deep
Comic Con?
South pair. Yes, that one. Hmm. Yeah.
Hmm.
Um, I'm trying to convince my friend who's also an author to wear her werewolf one, because she writes werewolf
Oh,
books, and she's going to be at my table with me, or in my little section. She's bringing her she has some shifter mate books. They are, I say they're mildly spicy. I don't know, because I didn't actually read the spice. So like when I got to them, I skipped to the end of the chapter, and that, so I just keep telling everybody they're mildly spicy. They can be super spicy for all I know. I don't know. I'm just like, it didn't seem like there was a lot to me. I don't know. But my sister gets
so
on to me
okay.
like
The
the
problem,
same thing with like Game of Thrones. She's like, "How can you watch that? You like clean stuff?" And I'm like, "I just turn away." Like, I'm just like, "Oh, let me go get some popcorn. I'll be right back." I come back and it's like gone. Oh, crazy how that works. It really doesn't bother
the
me.
problem with this, Jolene, the problem with this right here is
Mhm.
that she now knows that you skipped to the last
Oh,
chapter to
I
read
told
the
her. I
end.
told her. Yes, I did. No, I didn't skip to the last chapter. I skipped to the end of the chapter. So, like, I was actually her beta reader, which is like somebody who reads it before it's published. And I told her that I would read it. Just let me know when the spice is. And she said, "I'm going to write it so that when it comes to it, you just skip to the end of the chapter, and then you can start at the next chapter, and you know that you didn't miss anything." I liked that concept. So I also, there's another girl that has a, not like a similar concept. It is called double door books. It, you, where you can read a regular book, and you see a picture of a door, and that means that there's spicy time coming. Well, if you don't want the spicy time, you can go to the next door, or you can keep reading. So it's kind of like a
Oh,
why choose your romantasy kind of book. But I thought that was very creative. I liked that.
well, that's interesting.
So
Yeah, yeah. No, I'm going to read it all.
I know.
I want the full effect.
It's very popular now. I wouldn't even know how,
Yeah,
like, to write a spicy thing, even though,
I
like,
just go right through it.
yeah. uh,
Yeah, there's no stopping me. Once I started, it's like I'm going. I've got the full berth here. I'm going to go for the full experience.
oh, that was funny.
And then when
Well,
I'm
I'm
done, I
sure
can be
there's
like,
a
whoo.
lot of them that I could recommend. They're very popular on Book Talk. So,
Well, I'm going to be reading your books. I'm really very, very interested in them. And I definitely want to. And everybody else who's out there is, remember, she's going to be at the Paracomic Con. Teresa says that would be so cool. Teresa or Joline is going to be at the Paracomic Con with her books. So you're going to be doing book signings and everything there?
yes, I'm going to do book signings
Yes.
there. And you can take a picture. I insist. If you buy my book, you get a picture with me in my demon costume, because I love pictures. I love taking pictures with people. So, hopefully, everybody like dresses up all spooky, because that's going to be super fun.
We'll have a lot of people dressing up pretty spooky. Last year we had a pretty good turnout with all that. There were some great costumes. And I think this year it's going to be even more involved.
Yeah, I'm
So,
sure that every year it's going to get
yeah,
more and more as people, hear about it and whatnot.
I think so. I think so. I mean, it was a blast last year, and it's a little bit different this year. And every year you learn how to. Okay, we could do this, or we could do
Hmm.
that, or mix it. It's just really interesting. And Stan and Teresa are so creative anyway, and
Hmm.
they come up with all kinds of nifty things. And Teresa's always looking she's got her ears and eyes out for something that's new and different. Oh, let's give this a try or do this. And so that, that really makes it a lot more interesting too. But we got some
Are
really
you
good
gonna have
people
a
that are
booth
going to
there?
be there as well.
Are you gonna have a booth there?
Yes.
And what
Yeah,
is
I'm
your
going to
booth?
have my spooky things booth. Spooky things.
Spooky
It goes
things.
with my radio show.
Ah,
Hmm.
cool.
And yeah, I've also got my Shadowhawk creations and the Jeweled Hawk. I've had the Jeweled Hawk for, oh my gosh, since the late '90s. I've had the Jeweled Hawk, and a beautiful friend of mine, cherished friend of mine, her name was Jewel,
Hmm.
and my native name is one of them is Hawk. It's Shadowhawk Windwalker, but Hawk is what I use as just a traditional name.
Hmm.
And so I combined her name and my name together, and I came out with the Jeweled Hawk, and it
That's
and it
pretty.
stuck. So yeah, it is. It's pretty neat, and I've had that since the late '90s. And then Shadowhawk Creations, I went ahead and did a brick and mortar store with Shadowhawk Creations in the early 200s,
Hmm.
and I had a little store down in South Miami that, and I incorporated the Jeweled Hawk in with that as well. But so I keep both of those, the Shadowhawk creations as well as the Jeweled Hawk, and I'm going to have my booth there as well. And but of course, I'm also with Web Paranormal, so I'm going to be bouncing around everywhere, doing all kinds of things. And
That's
then I'm
awesome.
also going to be doing yeah, it's going to be fun. And then I'm going to have a class on cryptozoology, and which is something that's just really,
Nice.
I've always had a great interest in it. Yeah, I've worked with animals most of my life,
Uh-huh.
and so cryptozoology was something that really
What is
has my interest for
cryptozoologies? I don't even know what that
years.
is.
Cryptozoology,
Yeah, I have no clue.
it's the study and research. Yeah, I've never heard of that. It's the study and research of animals that have not yet been described, otherwise discovered. It's just another way of saying discovered. But now these are animals that are like Bigfoot, the
Oh, like
Loch Ness
mythical.
monster.
Okay, gotcha.
Well, mythical are
Okay, so
really
not
more
mythical,
a
like
cryptid
super.
is different.
Okay,
Actually, a cryptid is an animal that has a possibility
of being.
of being an actual animal.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay,
So
gotcha.
these animals have a good possibility of being an actual animal, but it
Mm.
just takes more research into it. Bigfoot has got amazing accounts on it. I'd say it's probably about that far away from being described. It's so close. Um, Now something like a mermaid, not so much. That's
Mm.
something that's kind of far fetched, and physiologically speaking, a mermaid is just not possible. Not in the
I think it froze. Mine froze.
There we go. There we're back again.
Okay.
So that's really the difference
So, like the
between a
Loch Ness
cryptid versus
monster would
something that's
probably be
mythical.
something
A
that
cryptid
was
is something
cryptid.
that is very possible, just not yet described, whereas a mythical is, it's possible, but
Hmm.
not really probable.
Hmm.
So it's going more on lore,
Hmm.
legends, stuff like that.
Gotcha. Now.
Yeah. So, but that's like, some of the things that I'm going to be discussing is that right there, the
Mhm.
difference, and, going into some of the animals that are cryptid, and, you know, what's commonplace to us now to know what they are, the Komodo dragon. not that long ago was a
Mm.
cryptid.
Hmm.
They said that it was, and no, the mountain gorilla that long back in the 70s was a cryptid, but they actually
I
exist.
think there's a
Now they've been
lot of
described.
things that they will definitely be finding in the oceans for sure.
Oh my goodness me. Yeah, they come up with new things in the ocean all the time, and the main reason is because people don't go there.
Right?
They can hide. It's deep. They're trying to get away from us crazy people. I don't blame them. I wish I could live that deep.
Is there a
I'd be there.
particular is there someone that you're looking forward to that came last year that you're looking forward to seeing again at the conference? Like,
Oh yeah. I think Lee Triana Smith from um, Netflix's Repossessed.
mm,
She's just dear to me. And the last time I've seen her, now we've talked on the phone and stuff, but the last time I've seen her was at the Paracomic-Con. So I'm really excited about seeing Lee. Jeremy Leonard. The last time I saw Jeremy was at the Paracomic-Con, so it'll be good to see Jeremy again. Um, and of course, my buddy Blaine Rohan. I have him on every month. He comes on, and we have a lot of fun on my show together. He's on the first Tuesday of every month, and we just have a blast together. So we're excited to seeing each other come. So yeah, I'm really excited about the Paracomic Con coming up. It's just so much fun,
that's
and
awesome.
yeah, so we're uh, we're all really definitely looking forward to it, and we just got some great people come, that are going to be there. But just letting everybody, just reminding everybody, the Deep South Paracomic Con, September 14th and 15th. And we're also doing a haunted house there, Joline. We didn't do that last
Oh,
year.
yeah, I do believe that
Yeah,
she might have mentioned that.
yeah, it's going to be a haunted house there. So, well, a horror house. Yeah, we're going to have
She
fun
said
with
that there's
that.
still a vendor spot available. I don't know if you know what she's talking
There
about.
are there are vendor spots available. Um, you can go to the on the site and look up the vendor spots availability. And I believe Teresa's number is going to be on there. You can give her a call and see about getting you guys a spot. You guys, if you're going to come to the Paracomic Con, please go ahead and get those spots in there, because what happens is that a lot of people wait until close to the end, and then boom, they're gone. And we try to tell everybody, get them now, because there's a crunch there coming up to the end, and there's a possibility that you might not be able to get one in then. So you might want to go and pick it up early. But it's at the Deep South Paracomicon.com is the site that you can go to, and it'll give you all the information that you need about the vendor spots, the schedule of events that are going to be going on. You'll get all your information from there. And but we sure do hope that we'll be seeing everybody coming up there. And Jolene, thank you so much for coming on the show. I mean,
Ah, it was
you've
really
got me
nice meeting
totally
you.
interested in this book.
Oh,
You too. I'm going to
look
I'm
forward
going
to
to pick that book
seeing
up. I'm going
you.
to read it because I know my daughter-in-law is going to love it. Huh?
I look forward to seeing you there. It'll be super exciting.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Absolutely. Yeah, we're going to be in like the same kind of an area in there.
nice.
So thank you again, Jolene, for coming to the show. I've so enjoyed having you on. And everybody will be seeing you next Tuesday at 7 o'clock. And remember, September 14th, 15th, Deep South Paracomic Con. We'll see everybody next week. Thank you. Bye bye.
Bye.